You're listening to The People's Pitch, the official podcast of Minneapolis City Soccer Club, brought to you by footballstadiumprince.com. Let's start the show.
And as I talked about just a couple minutes ago, as Joe Watt stands over this one, he appears to be the one taking the penalty here. This is a huge confidence booster if you're Duluth.
Worst case scenario for City right here.
And it stopped! Yes! And it stopped!
Totally redeems himself.
Matt Elder redeeming himself. Oliver with the right foot. The shot is goal!
Oliver!
Justin Oliver will break the scoreless tie. And it is 1-0 Minneapolis City. Is Hutton now on the offense with the left foot.
Goal!
And it is now 2-0 Minneapolis
yes!
City.
Good finish.
Nick Hutton taking his quick victory lap.
Welcome back to the People's Pitch podcast, the official podcast of your Minneapolis City Soccer Club. I'm your host, John, and alongside me, as always, is the voice of Minneapolis City Game Day and the booth boy for Augsburg men's and women's soccer, the Nate Morales. Nate, exciting news around the club this past week, and we're not talking about just the season tickets going on sale for 2024, excuse me, but they are on sale now, so go get those. But some big changes within the club. Kind of hit the airwaves. And we like change because over the course of the last 6-7 years, change usually means the club is jumping course to another chapter. And historically, when we do that and kind of hit another level, that growth usually means there's success behind it because we've gone through a learning phase. So what are we talking about today, Nate?
Well, I see you're already on your PR tour, so that's good.
Yep.
Yeah, man, the change happening that hit the streets this week is longtime chairman and club co-founder Dan Hodeman steps down as president, and his replacement, the return of the Pribler, Adam Pribyl, former goalkeeper coach, former head coach, former technical director, former general manager, now president. So we're going to talk to Adam tonight. We're also going to dip back into Crows in college. We're going to get an update on our boys that are living in academia. So without further ado, let's get going. Let's talk about Adam. We first met this guy when he strode onto the field as City's goalkeeper coach, and we were all like, goalkeeper coach? He's so short. Fast forward through a bevy of club successes, of which he was a part of every one. And this coming season, Adam Pribyl is the new president of Minneapolis City Soccer Club, further cementing himself in club history. He's now put himself in the pole position, passing retired legend Kevin Hoof for the most capped guest. This is your 8th appearance. Adam, welcome back to the show. I had no idea. The 8 Timers Club. What bourbon?
Yeah, I did some history.
That's fantastic. And I gotta say, Nate, that's one of the best intros. You humbled me and built me up all at the same time. Well done.
Yeah. After
stuck the landing.
Yeah. You got to break you down before I build you up.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Just a classic HR conversation. Where do you see yourself in 5 years? Also, it'll be
it's
with
not
another
here.
Company. Not here.
Oh, and you're short.
Yeah, and you're short. Yeah, goalkeeper, and then also eloquently shitting on Kevin Hoof while you're at it as well. That's always fun to do. Anyways, I'll start things off. First off, on behalf of the club founders, I do want to not only congratulate you, sir, Adam, on taking the reins of this club, but wanted to say that really, if there's a better candidate out there to take over this position, I challenge anyone to find a better option than yourself. I think that what a great situation we're in for the club. And we'll dive in here in a little bit, but definitely wanted to say that before we get things going.
I really appreciate that.
Well, you're welcome. So you took last year off from full time with the club because you had some priorities to focus on. You and your wife, Jackie, welcomed a beautiful baby girl into the world. Thank you for helping populate the earth. You took a big promotion at Sports Engine, which is your 9 to 5 or whatever your working hours are. And you had commitments with Southeast Soccer Club. all culminating in a full vote. And not to mention, you were also on the committee that helped bring us the Minnesota Super Cup. So you were wrapped up in that. So clearly something kind of had to fall, and the decision was Minneapolis City. And it made sense with the volume of folks that we do have in positions. And you and I are kind of briefly talking about, like, the personnel is there, and there's a little less shifting you have to do there. But things, they were going to be fine without you. But you're back now. What was the past year like, not being involved and fully invested in the club that you were invested in for like 6 years?
It was so hard. It was so hard. And I'm so glad you asked it. Like, and I'll tell you what I found is that I tried to stay in it for, like, on the periphery, and Dan and all the team kept on kind of trying to give me different titles. Like, oh, you could be in charge of director of strategy. I was like, at the end of the day, what's
that?
Yeah, I was like, I don't even know what that means, but I really enjoy the club. I can't stay away from it. It's like, it's just a part of me. It's who I am. And so what I found last year is that I really had to remove myself from a lot of different things because I couldn't stop, right? And that ultimately factored in, like, coming back in, and those conversations been having for quite some time. It is not something that just happened recently. So, and I'm so honored and humbled to be back.
So you and I have talked at length about prioritization in life. I mean, it's how many conversations have we had about just that? And I personally used to be you. I had my hands in everything. I consistently was on the go from one thing to the next thing, but I had, just too much. And like where I hit my too much with my playing career at a high level, whether it was with the club and then my other soccer efforts that I had, like, things start to have to thin out so you can focus. And I did that with Minneapolis City. I'm involved less, with what I touched on, when Dan had to make a similar choice for himself with the club, what was the first conversation, like, the two of you had that led to this kind of decision, kind of, ultimately culminating in the transition?
Yeah, it's a great setup for the question. Like, I think, like, ultimately the discussions that Dan and I had, and again, we had so many of them, right? It was coffees and happy hours and late night discussions. It was just, and it really became about, if we take a step back, and I continue to tell this to Dan, and I'd say it to anyone, is that let's remove ourselves from the emotional aspect that is the club, because again, you're in it, you guys have been in it since day one. The club starts to kind of run through your veins, and it becomes somewhat emotional. But I told him, let's think about these things like you're a consultant, like you're coming from outside the club. What do you think the right decision is, right? And so when you start to look at it from that lens to say, and what I'm trying to do there is, what's best for the club? Try to remove yourself from that equation. Don't think about what you need, but what's best for the club. And really, ultimately, what that means is, like, Dan is supremely talented at so many things, right? Like, he's built this club from the ground up, the branding, like the voice, the social media, all these different things. And we wanted to get him back into doing some of those things that he's, like, really good at, but also that gives him a ton of joy. And then some of those things that I think in my career I've started to build over years is, like, a lot of operational pieces. Like, I'm very process oriented. That's just the way my brain works. I like working with people. I like being on the phone. So it's like just connecting people and bringing them together. And that's really the power of the club. Like, this podcast is the people's pitch. And we always used to call it the People's Club. And that's what I want to return it to, because we just need to bring in the right people. And that's what the club's all about.
Yeah, absolutely. Quick follow-up. And you can pause us if we're not ready, if we're not ready there yet. But are there any other, like, shiftings happening around the club from a leadership or responsibility perspective that are happening or going to happen that you can share with us, or is it too early?
I mean, I'm an open book at this point, and what we're trying to do is like we have established an executive board, and so that executive board consists of Jeremiah Johnson, who is a longtime, he's like the founder of the Futures, really created that thing from the ground up. He's going to be taking over as sporting director. Then Matt Van Bunschoten is retaining his position as GM, so he's going to be kind of that running it side by side with Jeremiah on the sporting side, because what's Minneapolis City without Matt at the helm of the sporting side?
Mm-hmm.
But additionally, he's also going to be taking on another department that I call our community engagement, right? So community engagement will look like not only some of our philanthropic efforts, and that's always going to be part of who we are as a club, is giving back to the community, but also like how are we engaging youth soccer? How are we connected and grounded in the community? And those are things that Matt does supremely well. Then Dan will be taking over what I've kind of called our commercial and marketing side. So, think about game day operations, think about the social media, all those different pieces, branding, everything that he does extremely well. And then I'm very excited to announce that Paul Schmeckel is joining us he's joining us on the finance side. So he's had a lot of experience as a CFO in different organizations. And he's going to be coming in and helping our organization from that financial department side.
Nice. So a lot of shifting around, sounds like, but the listeners of the show are now putting the pieces together that, like you said, it is the People's Club, and all the people you mentioned have had an instrumental part of us building things in one way, shape, or form from the beginning, really. So it's great that that the process side that you're talking about is coming together with the people that I mentioned. Like there's a support system there. It's just kind of putting the right shapes in the right shaped holes, really.
I think you said it really well, and I just want to say that like those aren't the only people, right?
Right.
That's the only thing. It's what I want to be able to say right now, because we're going to continue to announce more people that are either joining the club or people that have been within the club that are taking on new and exciting roles. So like there's going to be a lot more coming up, but like that core is leading those different departments, and we're joining in this executive board that I've kind of formed to make sure that we can execute against our mission. And that's what we're really grounded on, is what is the mission of Minneapolis City Soccer Club, and how do we continue moving that forward in a prolific way.
And it also spreads the responsibility around too a little bit, where it's not all on, it's probably something that Dan could have benefited from over the last few years, but it's just not up to Dan solely to worry about, balancing the budget and making sure that the bills are getting paid, and making sure that the content is top notch, and making sure the game day experience comes off the way it does, and all this stuff, right, falls on Dan, and it kind of wears on you. So it's nice to be able to spread that around and be able to do something that maybe Dan was not the best at, and delegate.
Nate, you nailed it on the head. And I want to hear like from all of our listeners out there, is like there's some of you that know the club really well. There's some that are like just joining in and saying, what is this all about? But for any of them that know lower level soccer, like it's a passion project, right? But I also like I think from like if any of us knew what this thing was going to be back in 2016, I don't think we would have done it. I really believe that. I really believe that, because like if people come and say like, yeah, this is going to be like X, Y, and Z, and you're going to do, now it's really cool, but like the work and what it became was insane. Like I think about like John and Dan basically said like, yeah, like we're pretty good at MASL and we think we can take it to this national level. You want to try it? That was it, right? I was like,
yep.
I was like, hell yeah, let's try it. Like I think
why not?
we got some ballers here in Minnesota, and then it took on this, and then like every year we've just gotten bigger and better. not that bigger is always better, but like we've just continued to grow in a different way. So, Nate, I just think it's really well said, in that like we needed to take that different step to build more structure. Um, and really, it's just about like, how do we take the people that have built this thing and build structure around them to allow them to be successful? And then what I'm really excited about is let's be aggressive in bringing in more people, because I think there's a lot of people out there that really resonate with who we are and what our mission is. We just have to provide them that opportunity and be super aggressive about that.
Yeah. Adam, John and I just spent a couple of shows reflecting on the best of the 2023 season. Looking back on the year for yourself, what do you think are some of the club's top moments and accomplishments from this year?
That's a great question.
Softball question before I break you down.
Yeah, absolutely. What I think is the best thing about the 2023 season was, we can talk about different results and we can talk about like the different moments on the field, but what I think happened for me, which was difficult in 2022, and actually this is going to be a little bit more long form. I'm going to go back to 2017.
Whoa.
2017, we made the jump from PLA to NPSL, right? And if anyone remembers that year, like I think we came in third that year, but like we thought we had the super talented roster, and we got kind of rocked in a lot of different ways, right? Like
we built the team for the PLA, and then we moved into something different, and it wasn't the right makeup.
It wasn't the right makeup. So like in 2022, we go from the NPSL to USL2, and we're like, huh, this is different. And it was the same thing, right? So like, then I think what happens then is like what we're realizing is USL2 is a very high level, but it's also a developmental league, right? Like you have to have guys that are under 23 for the most part. You have roster limits on ages and different things like that. So for me, what happened in 2023 is that we started to see players and a new generation of players play for the badge. Like you saw guys really, really care. And that to me was like, we started to feel some of the magic again of like, ooh, like now we're in USL2, we have different rivals, we have different games and against different opponents, and we're starting to see like guys really start to care and leave it all out on the field. And let's be all honest, that's what we're all here for.
Yeah.
Like is guys that like, yes, they're all coming with like different aspirations, whether it's coaches, staff, players, what have you. Like they're all coming there, and we want to be a platform and a trampoline for them to get into whatever else they want to do in their soccer career. And like I'd love to talk about that sometime. Like look at our coaching roster and what they're all doing now. It's phenomenal. But like you look at that, and then but when they come in and they figure out our culture and they say, I want to play for the badge, I want to be a Crow, and once a Crow, always a Crow, like that to me really started to happen. And I can't define it in a moment. It's a feeling.
Well, I'm going to ask my last question, then I'll let Nate do his thing. What does the first 90 days of the Pribyl regime look like?
Great question. It's all people. It's all people. So I told our executive board, I've told everyone that there was some really tactical things that had to happen in terms of building like what our programming is looking like, and then locking down facilities, etc. That stuff's really important. But then from here on out, in the next 30, 60, 90 days, I'm solely focused on getting people in the right positions, doing a weird amateur soccer onboarding process, but really making them feel like they're part of the club, and then getting people in the right cadence of meetings or whatever they need to do to be successful. Because again, when we have brought people into the club, and like I'll point to like John Martinson a couple of years ago, who's now the managing partner at Minnesota Super Cup. Like when we bring in people and give them to say, what do you love doing? and why do you want to do it and fit it into the mission, then we become super successful.
Yeah. Adam, you've always been really good. You are a phenomenal people person. You always have been good at building those bridges and getting people to feel comfortable and to open up. But you're also the guy that can look over and be like, all right, time to get a red card because I'm going to scream at somebody. What's the what, this is a question off the cuff, but do you see any, maybe not opportunities is the right word, but are there any points in the next year or any things at the back of your mind where you're like, I might need to get a little aggressive about this?
Yeah, I mean, my biggest thing there, Nate, is like I'm gonna protect the culture, right?
Yeah.
So like, John, I'll credit John Bisworm with this many years ago. Like one of our founding principles is the no asshole policy.
Yep.
Right. And it's pretty simple. I don't think I have to explain it, but like at the end of the day, we have a mission that is always going to be paramount. That there's going to be some guiding principles that I will absolutely protect. And I think we need to have fun. So right now, anyone that comes in the club has to have a conversation with me. And in that conversation, I tell all of them, if there's a moment where you're not having fun, and that does not mean it will not be challenging, but I think challenging can be fun. But if you're not having fun, you're not enjoying it, I want you to stop and I want you to leave. And I'll be pretty aggressive about that to say, like, if there's moments where it's like we're not enjoying what we're doing, then we've got to look in the mirror and say, why are we doing it?
Yeah.
So
nice. Adam, let's talk about what we're doing. The off season, it's getting shorter, even when it comes to the USL2 UPSL level, right? And as the weather gets colder, all of a sudden it's October and we're thinking about trials and combines for both the first team and the futures starting, in a couple weeks, right? Would you say that is just a product of overall the evolving demands of soccer, or is it more the local semi-pro environment that's getting more competitive and that clubs like us need to start looking at being kind of always on in order to attract and identify top talent? I mean, look at what Tulsa's doing. Like they're playing 2 seasons a year.
Yeah. I think it's a little bit of both. I think like it depends on the makeup of the club, right? Like if I'll use Racine. I think that they can recruit and bring guys in April and hit the go button, right?
Yeah.
Like I think the Ballard FCs and Racines of the world that have that type of environment where they say we're going to recruit, we're going to house guys, and we're just going to hope it all kind of comes together and meshes, and then we go. That's a different story. I think what we're doing is building, and we're really saying we're still focusing on the Minnesota player. We're going to build locally, and so like. Also, I think we have to acknowledge what we've done is we've been pioneers in the space and we've shown people that this is a very viable option. And so I think it's, when we see all these different, whether it's UPSL clubs, NPSL clubs, USL clubs popping up all over Minnesota, I think it's a tip of the hat to what we've done. But it also means that we've got to kind of sharpen what we're doing and stay on top of things and continue to kind of have touch points in the community to say, here's who we are and here's how you get quality players into the club. So
nice. Yeah. Reflecting on how Minneapolis City shows up in the community and how it's functioning at that UPSL, USL2 level, where do you see opportunities for Minneapolis City to improve, not necessarily in the on-field product, but how it's just delivering its mission overall?
I think building out that community engagement department within the club is important to me because that's always been a core tenet of who we are as a club. Like there's a lot of clubs that say they're, community club or of the people or this, that, or the other, but it's like, are you investing like resources into that, right?
Mhm.
Like,
Mhm.
and so, I even think that, like, I think that's an area of growth for us. Like, and frankly, if I know our fans, if I know the people that really enjoy Minneapolis City, that's part of why they are fans of Minneapolis
Mhm.
City, is because
Yeah,
we
that's part of the
actually,
value proposition.
right. So it's like, and my thing is that, like, we can all say we're busy, we can all say this, we can all whatever, but it's like, at the end of the day, let's write down what's really important and what are our guiding principles of the club, what's our mission, and then let's put the resources behind it. So that was important for me to say, we have a department lead in Matt who's uniquely qualified to run that, and then let's get deep into that. And for me, I don't necessarily want to go, you know, buckshot and do it with a bunch of different organizations. Like, every year I'd like to kind of have a focus with one or two organizations and go deep and have a meaningful impact in the community. Um, so my challenge actually would be to any listeners, like, if you're hearing this and you say, yeah, well, that sounds really cool, I want to get involved, or I know some organizations that Minneapolis City should partner with, reach out. Um, you know, whether it's to these guys on the podcast or myself, reach out, and let's get moving on it, because I think that's an important part of the club that we need to continue to reinvest in.
So a lot of people, when you ask them about what Minneapolis City should be doing, I think some of them go in that community focused direction. Others go in the more competitive direction. And they're like, well, we need to expand. We need a youth club. We need a women's club, and all of this. And, now that there are, the youth market is absolutely saturated here, with St. Croix being the big hitter.
Mm-hmm.
The Aurora has shown up on the scene and just blown that playbook out of, like, knock that playbook out of the park. Like, they are phenomenally successful, right? So, like, yeah, let's not focus on that. But when we do think about growth, is revenue really the biggest challenge for Minneapolis City in any growth vision? Like, what else do you see the club needing to address in the next 3 years, besides, like, figuring out how to make that money?
Yeah, I mean, it's a great question, Nate, because, like, I mean, it's a loaded question, because yeah, absolutely, revenue is going to be a primary focus, because I think one of the challenges that we have is that I want to balance high performance with a volunteer run organization. Those two are important, and because part of our mission is providing this, like, high performance environment,
Yeah.
um,
But, like,
to
practice spaces don't volunteer.
correct. I
Mhm.
mean, like, it's 400 plus dollars an hour, and
Yep.
so when you look at those different things, but it's like, we want to bring in players that, we've always had a commitment to bringing in players that don't necessarily have access to that type of environment. I don't think you can say those things about all the different organizations in Minnesota, and so, like, we're trying to thread a needle that is pretty thin, right? Like, high
Yep.
performance volunteer organization, have a mission, but also be high performing, and do all these different things. And so that's always been the challenge for us. So, like, does revenue help in that? Absolutely. That's always going to be a focus for us. But I think, like, if we continue to double down on our mission, and we do a really good job in storytelling, and we do a really good job of reaching out across whatever aisle, whether that's, to other soccer organizations, to our community, to different people, we have to come with a bigger megaphone. So, like, I think we need to do a much better job in PR. Like, I'm looking at all the social media algorithms and saying, like, some of the reach that we used to have in social media might be changing. Like,
Yeah.
Elon Musk is shutting stuff down, right? Like,
Yeah.
and so, like, unless you're going to pay for it, I don't know like if we're going to have that same reach. So I think we need to actually borrow a playbook from our friends with Minnesota Roar and say we need to get in touch with local media more. Like there's a lot of things that we need to do to grow ourselves in a way that's going to be sustainable, and also say like I want to challenge everyone to say like there's growth, but also to say like can we just be really good at what we do where we're at? Like those
Yeah.
things are okay too. Like so I guess saying all those things is like there's a lot of areas where I think that we can improve, Nate, but I'm going to look at doing them like incrementally and very process driven to say, let's define what we want to do. Let's set a plan against that. And then we need to set those metrics to say, how are we going to evaluate that? And I don't like, we haven't always had the time to do that. We have to do that in order to feel good about what we're doing.
And this is why I like talking to you, because you give people the space to get a little sappy just by virtue of what you're talking about. But like, it's okay that fans have different ideas of what growth looks like. And that's part of why the club is so great and so like fulfilling, is that you can come from all sorts of different backgrounds. You can come from all sorts of different angles, and you can see what you love about soccer coming to life within Minneapolis City.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like you can see, even though it might not be right for the club, you can still be like, God, Minneapolis City is the club that I want my kid to play for as a 10-year-old. Or Minneapolis City is the club that I want working with my charity, my favorite charity. Or, you know what I mean? Or Minneapolis City is the club that I want my sister or my friend to play for on their women's team, right? So like, you can't fault people for having all these different visions for what Minneapolis City should be. But I think your point is right on, is that the growth needs to be purposeful, and it needs to start with, let's just be the best that we can be right now, and let's see where the next 3 years takes us.
Yeah, well said. Well said.
And speaking of that, think about this. Speaking of the next 3 years, think about this. 3 years ago, we were in the middle of COVID. The club was mid-COVID, but we're still about to launch the Futures program. We're about to enter our third NPSL North winning season. And looking at everything that's happened since the offseason between 2020 and 2021, talking about how successful the Futures have become in terms of on-field and player development, the switch to USL2, Carl Craig signing on. Thinking about all that, what are your pie in the sky hopes for the club 3 years from now?
So I'll go, because I'm pretty ambitious. So even in 3 years, I want our own stadium.
Yeah.
Right. Like flat out. Like, and I want to say that with like all due respect, like I love the Nelly. Nothing can replace like the feeling of when you're playing at the Nelly. But for a number of different like economic and other different reasons, like I want my own stadium. So whether that's like leasing or owning land and building something, that's a goal I'd like. I'd like to double down on the futures. I'd like to build out the futures all the way down to, 13U, right? So 13U, 15U, 17U, 19U, U21, building up into, right? I'd also like to, I'd like to continue to explore what it means to break into the women's space. I think that the reason that we haven't thus far is because, like, frankly, there's not a gap in the market that I see at the current moment. Like,
right.
There's a lot of organizations that are doing it really, really well. That's, I want to be very clear. Like, we've always evaluated the market and said the WPSL is here, and there's like 11 teams here that are doing a phenomenal job. So we just said, I don't know if we've always said if there's a gap in the market, we're going to fill it, because that's what we think is really important, and we've seen those gaps in the past, so that's what we've done. Taking away nothing from Minnesota Roar, they've done a phenomenal job. But again, what I'm saying there is that, like, as we build out this model, and we've done this thing really well with Minneapolis City, I don't want to limit that to just one gender. That doesn't seem right to me.
Mhm.
So, like, I think if we're building this thing that like is very inclusive and it's the people's club, then we have to open it up to all people. So those are some of the goals that I have, and I think that, like, if you ask me about 5-10 years, I could get even crazier, but I think those we can we can go there for
A
3.
stadium on the moon.
Yeah.
That's right.
All right. So last question, and this came up again. This is off the cuff because you kind of hinted at it earlier. You referenced it. That when you think back and you look around at the soccer landscape right now in the cities, so many coaches, so many former players, so many former coaches are all having success in their soccer career. And I don't necessarily mean as players, I mean as coaches, as moving on and being able to make a living, or at least continue to pursue their passion. When you think about all these coaches that are from Minneapolis City, they're everywhere, whether that's whether that's the Oliver brothers, whether that's Jonah. I saw Samo at the Bethel game tonight. You can look at MVB over at MTA now, running their juniors
Gibbons.
program, right? I mean, the list is on and on and on and on. And it all started in 2016, 2017, where you were on staff as a goalkeeper coach. You take over as the head coach, and it all builds from there. Eli Baker, whatever, right? Are you the Pep Guardiola of Minneapolis City?
I'm not nearly as smart as he is. But like, what I will
all
say
of these
is
guys that learned under you, that learned your system.
I'd say more like the Bill Belichick.
Bill Belichick. That's a good. That's a cross sport analogy, but probably more apropos.
Let's not forget, like, John Pucci just took a job with St. Mary's and is doing phenomenal things there. Michael Prunty, like, the coaching tree from our organization is phenomenal.
Yeah.
Well, the whole Hamlin staff is pretty much all Minneapolis City.
All of them, right? And like, what I will say is, what I think there's incredible power is, and this is what we've always done really well, is showing up authentically in this space. And I don't know if you can always say that about youth sports or amateur sports or sports in general.
You cannot say that about youth sports, especially when there's a lot of money involved. There's nothing authentic there.
Like we all know it's big business at this point. Like, as everything in a capitalist society ends up becoming. But, like, if you show up authentically in the space, and there's something powerful about us coming and saying, like, well, we're not going to pay you a lot. We don't take a lot of player dues. Like, this is just kind of who we are. And when we pitch that to people, and you say, like, all right, well, if people are willing to come in and do it for cheap or nothing at all, and we show up authentically and say, this is who we are, and this is what we're about, like, good things happen, right? Like, and so, like, it's the most frustrating thing in the world because it's incredibly difficult. Like, it's incredibly difficult. But at the same time, it can be the most rewarding thing in the world, because the things that you guys just talked about, like reflecting on the coaches and the players, what those types of people have done in their careers, and using Minneapolis City as a launching pad, like, I can retire from all this stuff and I can feel like I've done my job. So I think that's the biggest thing, is just showing up authentically in the space and saying, here's who we are, and let's put people first, and soccer is the vehicle.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't think you could have wrapped this one up with a better bow there, Adam. But thanks for making us your first stop on your magical press tour that you're going to have here. When we got you before ESPN did, so we really appreciate that. But I said it already, I'll say it again. I think this is, if we're looking at club transition and and moving to our next stages. I think what better person to come on board in another official capacity? I mean, you've done laundry, you've coached, you've done everything. Might as well take the reins. So we really appreciate you joining us, and really excited about what the future holds.
You guys are the best in the business. Don't let anyone tell you different.
Nobody would dare.
Yeah, no one realizes how much work a fourth division U.S. amateur soccer podcast really does
So
make
much,
it you put
so
in
much.
each week. All right, Adam. Well, thanks so much for joining us, man. It was good talking with you. And like I said, we're super excited for what's on the horizon.
Appreciate it, gentlemen.
All right, take it easy.
Thanks, Adam. So the Crows' summer seasons are well behind us. The chill is in the air. And you can go back a couple shows and listen to those recaps of that. But look, there are more opportunities than ever to catch your Crows in action in their college environs, right? Between ESPN Plus, you got the MyAC Sports Network powered by Huddle, and of course, just old-fashioned getting out of your house and driving somewhere.
Yeah, what's that?
There are Crows on the field, colleges everywhere. And this fall, we are excited to make sure that we touch on a few of them each show to keep you hyped about Minneapolis City in the off season and the players that make this squad so fun to watch.
Yeah,
John, get started. Who are your guys? Who are your guys you're watching?
First and foremost, if you haven't been on the internet at all, I don't know what you're even doing, but Eli Goldman has been on an absolute rip lately. The captain of University of New Hampshire, as of our last broadcast 2 weeks ago, has been melting the back of the net to the tune of a brace and a 3-1 win versus Princeton, taking down the Smart Guys, following up with a game winner a week later in a 1-0 victory over the other Smart Guys in Harvard. How do you like them apples, smart kids? And then adding the opening goal last Tuesday night in a 3-0 win versus Northeastern. So I've said it, and I'll say it again. If you are a pro soccer club, maybe even one that's struggling to find the back of the net across the river, which we have to still talk about some coaching changes.
Oh my God, I can't believe we've got
We'll talk about that next time. Do not sleep on Eli Goldman. Eli is pro ready. Go get him. It's so easy. So easy. Just go get him. Don't make it difficult. Put everything aside that you did before and go get Eli Goldman. But Eli's been on a tear. And then sticking with our D1 boys over at St. Thomas, they've been having a tough year. It's been a tough beginning of the D1 program for them. But Minneapolis City forward Dennis Mensah showed up big for the Tommies. The lone bright spot last week that got them on the front foot with a 66-minute game-time goal that gave them their first points of the Summit League season this year. And points for the Tommies have been hard to come by, but scored a real crucial goal for them this week. So that rounds out my D1 guys.
That's tough to see, man. As far as that St. Thomas program, like you really wanted them to make that leap and be successful. It's just,
well, we're seeing it in USL too, Nate.
As we know, it's hard to do. Hard to make the leap to the next division.
Yep. I mean, you step off the ledge and you don't know how big the fall is or how high the jump is.
Yeah. All right. So I don't know how, John, this bit has kind of turned into the Mitchell Munzing Stan segment because
right.
He is on a tear of his own. He has picked up a stagnant Augsburg attack with a hat trick that powered them to their first win since September 21st. That was last week that was Saturday at Concordia, the Cobbers. And that puts him at 7 goals and 5 assists on the season. He added 2 tonight, so that makes it 7-7. 7 assists is tied for second behind Misael Harris's 11 assists, which is good enough for NCAA Division III overall second place. So if you're not watching Augsburg, it's fun, man. Misael Harris and Mitchell Munzing, 2 futures players, are just lighting it up in the MyAC. And Mitchell's 7 goals puts him in 4th in the MyAC, which is 1 goal behind Hakeem Morgan. Hakeem Morgan has 8 on the year. And let's talk about Hakeem, John. Big news.
Yeah,
Keene.
big news. Got another Crow getting called up. The news broke last week that the Costa Rican U23 national team is calling Hakeem into camp, which I know probably puts a little bit of stretch on Justin Oliver and the coaching and Gibbons, the coaching staff at St. Olaf, with having to try to fill the void in Hakeem Morgan. But I especially during the college season, it's got to be tough for a Division III coach, but a Division III player getting called into an under 23 national team is I don't know what gets bigger than that.
Yeah,
it's a pretty big thing, and the Costa Ricans, much like the United States U23 squad, is basically going through the qualification steps for the Paris Olympics. So. And I don't know if that stuff's going to be on, be able to watch. You might have to get some dirty stream that'll give you a virus on your computer. But, I mean, what a great testament to all the work that Hakeem's putting in, and also a testament to the recruiting nature of our club to be able to snag a player like him. And all in all, awesome news. So congratulations to Hakeem. Super happy for him.
You said it. I mean, looking at the announcement post, he's in this team with guys from the Costa Rican League, lots of teams there. But of course, Saprissa has a number of representatives. Also a player from Nottingham Forest, a player from Heart of Midlothian up in Scotland, player from Sunderland. Like, this is real. The only other college player it looks like on this roster plays for Central Florida, which is phenomenal, right? So it's just a testament to the talent that he has, and really a lot of hard work that he puts in. Those games are coming up this weekend, October 14th, October 17th. Maybe you can watch on ESPN Plus. Just do a little research, because we didn't do any.
Yeah, like I said, you'll probably end up having to bootleg it and get some malware.
Yeah. So that's those are your Crows in college this week. I love talking about it. We'll be back next week with some more updates as the regular season starts to come to a close. There's only about 4 or 5 games left for all these guys before the playoffs start. So check it out.
I gotta add one thing though. Like, Hakeem, when you're with the 23 Ticos, can you bring like 2 guys back with you for the summer? Like, just pick any 2 guys that want to just hang out and like live the lake life. And
what's a bummer? The lake life. These guys live on the ocean. What's a bummer, John, is I was just realizing that Hakeem will not be at the Nelly on Saturday for the game.
Yeah,
which I guess is probably good for Coach Holker. Yeah.
yeah. But yeah, Hakeem, if you're listening, bring some buddies back.
Bring some friends.
Bring some friends back.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, that's all. Thank you for listening to this week's show. And thank you to our wonderful show sponsor, footballstadiumprints.com. If you're in the market for wonderfully curated, soccer-focused design on anything you need, from mugs to t-shirts to prints to art for your wall, head on over to footballstadiumprints.com. Fill that card up. And you can use code CROWS10, CROWS10, for 10% off everything you buy. All U.S. orders ship right here from the United States, so don't worry about international shipping charges. Footballstadiumprints.com. Thank you so much. As a reminder, Minneapolis City is a 501c3, so go ahead, consider beefing up that tax deduction before the end of the year through a charitable gift to the club. And John mentioned it, memberships for the 2024 season are on sale, so it's never too early for you to cement your seat in the stands and make sure you secure some sweet swag along with it. Plus, you get that early discount on any Minneapolis City gear ahead of the holidays. So get your membership today. If you're interested in getting a hold of me and John, we've made it simple. I guess you could hit the club up on Twitter if you want, at MPLS City SC, but it's better to hit us up here at the People's Pitch, aka X, I guess, not Twitter anymore, whatever, or via email.
It's still Twitter.
Email us, mcscpodcast@gmail.com. And that's all for this week. I'm Nate. Thank you so much to new club president Adam Pribyl. Of course, John joining me as well. Got to make it out and support some of the Crows in college this fall. Big game on Saturday, Augsburg versus St. Olaf at Edor Nelson Field. So it's a place you're familiar with. Head on out. That game's at 5:30 p.m.
Okay. Interesting. Maybe
Get
he'll
there.
make it out for that one. Maybe he'll make it out for that one.
Some really exciting soccer out there being played, and the conference battles are starting to close up, and the championships and tournament positions will be settled here in the next week. So check it out. And as always,
Yeah.
got hoof.